Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters. We're in the midst of day number 3 at the moment, and we've just had Group A conclude. TY, our current reigning defending champion here at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship, was able to take first place in that group and has moved on to the round of 8. Meanwhile, we had Deer and Maru claiming the round of 12 spots, and they'll be moving on into the bracket on days number 5 and potentially day number 6 if they're victorious moving forwards. Of course, though, it's time now as we're at the halfway point here of the Intel Extreme Masters day number 3, and it's time to begin Group B.
Group B definitely has 2 big favorites. We have Innovation, the best Terran from the last 5 or so years, and we have Dark. This guy's a runner-up from the BlizzCon World Championships. He's one of the best Zergs that we've ever had, and he has been for a long time. These 2 should be battling for those top 2 spots.
As far as the Koreans go, Hurricane is kind of the black sheep. These other Korean pro gamers have had a lot of success, whether it's in Korea or outside of Korea. So this is going to be a really big challenge for him to try to prove himself against all these accomplished players. True's a player who's chosen to compete overseas, essentially outside of Korea, his home turf, in a lot of these WCS events. But being overseas means he might not be training with the best people. So I'm curious to see how he's going to perform against the players who stayed in Seoul and kept training there.
It's all about that trophy at the very end, or even right behind me. Whoa, snuck up on me there for a moment. Of course, here as we move into Group B, I'm joined by... What's up? Anyway, Artosis.
You would be afraid of a stationary object that's been there all day, wouldn't you, James?
Right, I don't go outside. Anyway, we're moving on to Group B, gentlemen. It's a fantastic group. You've got people like uThermal in there, who's going to be fighting against 5 very, very powerful Koreans. 2 of Koreans of which in Hurricane and True that are in odd situations compared to our other Koreans just normally living over in South Korea. True, obviously, participating, the only Korean in the WCS circuit. And Hurricane actually living in the foreigners, the non-Koreans' house over in Korea, if I'm correct.
That's quite true. So he spends a lot of time with those non-Korean players. Yes. Of course, uThermal was over there for a little bit as well. But again, like that smart, handsome caster said in the video, Dark and Innovation are the ones vying for those top spots, it seems. I mean, these are the best Terran and Zerg in the world for years.
Right, right. Yeah. Not too bad. There, Todd, what do you think about this group, how it looks out? When you've got someone like uThermal, who, you know, for a long time, actually, he didn't really see much success. It was kind of mediocre results, but then he had that breakout performance at the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai, where he was truly able to claim a premier title on the world stage.
It's always hard to know what to expect out of uThermal, right? Sometimes he's even not very confident himself at all, and then suddenly he's like beating everybody. Even that one tournament, you know, the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai that he won, he even said he was thinking about retiring, and there he is showing up and winning the whole thing, beating Neeb and like doing so well. So I feel like he doesn't even know himself in what kind of shape he is. He just kind of shows up and then either he plays really well and all kind of beats everybody, or he just busts out of the tournament, which, I mean, in this group wouldn't be too surprising when you have Dark and Innovation in there.
That's, of course, a player that we have to talk about, Innovation. A guy that I think when you look at his record in Starcraft 2, he is the most winning player on Korean soil. I think it's 7 championships compared to the closest, which is MVP ages ago at 5 championships.
Yeah, Innovation is set to break every single record this year, and just be like the greatest player of all time. Sure. Like, eventually we are going to have to admit that it's not MVP and that it is Innovation. And I mean, this is just another tournament where we might see him go ahead, be victorious, you know, win a huge ton of money, another stacked tournament. And no one would be surprised if Innovation wins.
That's true.
Not one person will be surprised.
That's correct. I mean, admittedly, he actually hasn't won that many tournaments on foreign soil. I think it's only won like Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom, if I believe, back in the day. But other than that, Todd, I want to talk about someone like Dark, who you'll always constantly hear his name against someone like Suze for best Zerg in the world.
Yeah.
But Sue's not here. Dark is.
Yeah, so I guess he's gonna represent those Zergs, and as well as he can. Dark is, I feel like, after he finally lost to a foreigner for the first time not that long ago, there's going to be that big question on how does he bounce back from that. Does he come back way stronger, or did that kind of break him mentally a little bit? I feel like there's definitely a big chance he's just going to come out there guns blazing and start taking names left and right. Like he's, in my opinion, the big favorite to make top 2 here with Innovation in that group. And then it's going to be a battle between the rest for that 3rd place. But, I mean, you never know.
You're right, you're right. And that pretty much wraps up kind of our thoughts initially here for this group. Of course, we'll get time at length to be able to talk about all of these players as their matches come up. Our first match, of course, is going to be uThermal going up against Solar. So let's get ready for that one.
The Netherlands up against Korea here to start off group number B. Number B, letter B, however it goes. We are here, we're excited, and we've got a great Zerg versus Terran ahead of us.
Yeah, this is a really big series immediately for uThermal, as I do agree with the boys at the desk. A lot of us are looking at Dark and Innovation as the 2 top favorites in this group, but of course, battle for 3rd place I think is a lot more open. Could very well be Solar, could be uThermal if he has a great day, or it could even be True or Hurricane, or perhaps we get a massive upset and we somehow see Dark or Inno falling out in this group stage. But that's not really what I think both these guys are counting on. I think they're also looking at the other 3 players in this group and be like, all right, even if we end up losing against those 2 Titans, as long as we make it into the round of 12.
He's got a road ahead of him. He's looking to start off on a strong footing, hailing from the Netherlands, representing Team Liquid. It is uThermal.
I love how he was rocking the scarf on those pictures, holding up the Team Liquid scarf. Stylish as always. Over here on the left bottom side of Blackpink, we're looking at the main base of our Korean Zerg. It's Solar.
Representing Splice, one of the more beloved Korean players. Has great English. We always love him down at Home Story Cup, translating for all the other players and joking around with everybody.
At some of those foreign events, Solar is an absolute hero because he does it all at once. He's playing, he's casting, he's translating, he's communicating, he's being a tournament referee as well. He just does it all. You kind of need to invite Solar to your tournament to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, he kind of admins in his spare time as well, helps troubleshoot for the players, and at the same time, always has time, it seems, to come up with some new meta-breaking builds, and that's really what I think of Solar as. He's like a very well-planned player, I think, is what I kind of think of him as. Back in the day, it was originally a Zerg vs Protoss sniper in Heart of the Swarm. These days, a very well-rounded player. Had a lot of famous grand finals in the Zerg vs Zerg matchup a couple of years ago. Hasn't been, I guess, as much of a headliner more recently, but still definitely up there.
Absolutely. uThermal on the other end has had a lot of success in this matchup in particular. If you go back to that Intel Extreme Masters Championship that Todd mentioned, that was off the back of winning multiple TVZs in a row. Now, of course, that was the Reaper era, a unit that we know that uThermal is absolutely in love with. But these days, he's still good in the matchup. He got here by qualifying through the European qualifier. He beat Zero in that Deciders match. And not too long ago, I took a look at one of his ladder accounts, and at that point he was like 27-0 against Zerg. Wow. Just didn't lose against Zergs. And then you're thinking about a 6.5, 6.8k MMR account as well, Pig. So it's a matchup that he definitely loves. I'm expecting at least 1 or 2 mech builds coming out of him in this group, if not a lot more.
It's been really cool actually to see him evolve from a player who was very bio-focused. He loved his Reaper, he loved his 2 barracks opening into Stim Marines. But more recently, we've seen a lot of just very aggressive Hellion harassment-focused mech. And he's been ripping apart a lot of the Zerg players. Already a nice little start to his Reaper harassment. Does get 1 Zergling kill, bruising the rest of them. But Solar, of course, did sneak that drone out and has the 3rd base going down already.
I always love it when you see the Eye of the Tiger, when they really want that extra Zergling, and nothing will stop them. Know that the Queen is about to pop, but that Queen, of course, needs more than 1 or 2 hits to take care of that Reaper. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what uThermal is going to do. I'm expecting him to perhaps play a little bit similar to how Special likes to play, with some Hellion-based arrest and then Cloak Banshee follow-up, just to dictate the pace of the game a little bit. Have some map presence and hopefully do quite a bit of economic damage.
Yeah, it's such a good opening, this one. Of course, you don't even need to go Banshees. What I think is so good about it is the flexibility there, right? One game you can go for a Viking first, clear up the scouting, you can go Liberator. A lot of the time we see Cloak fake, they just go a Banshee with no Cloak. There's a lot of flexibility. Sometimes Hellion drop can come out of it. And I think usually the strength of the Terran play is to kind of rotate between those builds, so the Zerg doesn't know exactly which variation will be coming their way.
No, you're right. So far it is the Viking indeed, so those first Overlords will get taken care of. There's no Overlord speed, of course, so uThermal should be able to get at least 2 Overlords, and if he's very lucky, maybe a 3rd one somewhere close to the main base of Solar. Solar gets a little peek up into the natural of uThermal, and he spots 4 Hellions, and that's of course important to know as well.
Yeah, no Overlord speed for Solar this game, just going to be relying on those Zerglings to poke around, and this slow Overlord to try to get in there. The Viking does go off, no doubt is hunting for this Overlord, will eventually find it. But the Overlord should get a good idea of what's going on. Going to be a heavy Queen opening for Solar, relying on Transfuse and those Queens to help defend everything.
Well, I mean, didn't see much there in the end, and that 1 barracks is actually researching Stim quite fast. I mean, there are different timings of Stim in this matchup, but a 4-minute, 20-second Stim timing with 3 additional barracks is being thrown up already. uThermal definitely looking to catch Solar off guard in this match.
Yeah, that's looking like a 2-base timing attack, potentially with Hellbats, but definitely with just a ton of Stim bio and Medivacs very early on. And Solar here, trying to sneak those Lings in. He'd love to see what's going on behind this. He sends in another one, but the wall is up. Vision is completely denied. Solar has no way to scout until that lair finishes and he gets an Overseer out.
Could be quite nice for these Hellions to spot that Overlord in the middle of the map as well. Perhaps the Viking can start working on it. Even though most of the Queens are here, of course, these Hellions are going to try to pull the Queens out of position. This is already a very big moment in this game for uThermal. You don't want to lose your Hellions. You don't want to take too much damage on them. And preferably, he wants to give Solar the idea that Solar is sort of safe and can drone up a little bit more.
And this could work out perfectly. With this Evolution Chamber timing, I feel like Solar's going to start the 1-1, but they won't be finished in time for what I would imagine the big tank Stim push is. That being said, though, Baneling speed so early in this game, and that could be crucial for shutting this down.
Getting a couple of Zerglings so far, that's nice. Solar, of course, doesn't want to lose too many of his Lings right now, still wants to get a few more drones out, but I'm kind of expecting him to stop. At this point, if you're Solar, you're like at 62 drones already. He's getting 4 more, that's 66 on 3 bases. I'm kind of expecting him to throw down a 4th hatchery at any given moment. Does he have vision of the base at 3 o'clock? I don't think he has, right, Solar, that is?
I mean, it's so easy as a Zerg player to just assume you're going to be facing a 3rd command center follow-up because that's what you face like 95% of the time. As Solar, this is the absolute maximum he should be pushing his greed to. Like, if he builds any more workers, he is being a greedy, greedy boy. As it is, the 4th base does start. He's into Ling Bane production. He's still scouting both of those expansions. He sees no 3rd down yet, and he's got to start questioning what is uThermal up to.
I'm already a little bit worried for uThermal though, because I feel like it's still going to take a little while before those Marines and tanks will start knocking on the front door of Solar, and Solar is already producing Zerglings and Banelings. Now, Pig, I want to ask you, would you love to see Solar, let's say, send 20 Lings to the top side of the map, morph a couple of them into Banelings, and try to buy time with a little counterattack when uThermal moves out?
I think he doesn't even need to. With Bane speed this early, I feel like Zergs just normally don't have it this fast. And whilst the counterattack could be a good move, if he can just flank and come in from 2 angles, if he can kill the siege tanks, he shuts this push down. But he can't just wash up against it. He needs to crush the push in one go.
Well, the first Banelings start showing up already, and they do connect with these Hellions. The tanks were not sieged up yet. Will some of these tanks survive?
Oh, all of the siege tanks go down, and there's just so many banelings coming forward. Like I said, it just adds such explosive flexibility to the defense. And even though Solar's 1-1 wasn't ready, they're going to have time to finish up now. He's making more Zerglings, more banelings, even Hydralisks on the way. And uThermal here doesn't really have any good options. He's got to just continue trying to make this push work. But without the siege tanks, he can't do it. There's too much creep spread. He's just going to have to keep on attacking, but he needs a miracle right now.
Impressive how Solar got his creep out so far against these 6 Hellions of uThermal that were supposed to deny this. uThermal is going to be forced to evacuate before his push ever truly even started, right? He's going to drop units one by one, trying to get rid of these banelings. The tank is going to go down. The Marine count just isn't there anymore. Now, reinforcements are still coming, but the first Hydras are already on the way for Solar. And during all of this, guys, Solar has been up 20 workers, which means every second that goes by, things get better and better for Azure.
Yeah, he's pumping out so much army right now. That superior economy getting put to work. uThermal, on the other hand, still only on 2 bases. He's got another +1 armor on the way. Siege tanks, Liberators trickling across, some Marines coming, but it's not a strong reinforce. He's building up to one more final timing attack, and that attack will need to finish the game. He's looking to hit before Solar gets to critical mass, but Solar's being smart. He's not adding more upgrades. He's just squeezing in +2 now that he can afford it, but most of his focus is just masses of army units, and that's exactly what he needs.
Yeah, Solar, it's losing a couple of links here and there, but he's making 32 Zerglings at once. Morphing 12 Banes as well. He already had 8 or so Banelings, so I think once again, you're looking at 20 plus Banelings for Solar. And if he can get the engagement that he's looking for, this time with the Hydralisk behind this as well, it's 18 Banes at the point, but a few more are morphing. It's going to be very tough for uThermal, especially because the tank count isn't really there, right?
Yeah, and look at this counter attack as well. He doesn't even need to commit with the counter. He's just going to pull workers off the 4th for now. Hydra's trying to buy time there, and he's going to try to look for an angle, but these guys can even just come in from the backside. If he can pincer this army from 2 sides, it is going to get shut down.
Few Banes connecting with those Marines. uThermal's following this up with Liberators as well. Our Dodge Terran is super all in at this point. He's still only at 43 SCVs. He's still only at 2 orbital commands or command centers. He needs to win the game with this push, but it's going to be very tough. And I mean, Solar could technically even sacrifice that base and just re-expand on the left top side.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to take a bad fight up around.
Oh, catches the reinforce. Perfect play here from Solar. At this point, he's sitting on a full house up against Pair 2, Roddy. It's not looking good for uThermal. He's going to try to make it work, but Solar going to come in from both sides, crashing down. No, he's not going to do it. He's just going to pull back, playing so patiently. He knows the longer he buys, he's just producing so much more stuff. There is no urgency from Solar. He knows that uThermal is the one who has to make something happen.
There's just no Marines here anymore because the reinforcements have been cut off as well. I think uThermal has quite a few units somewhere out on the map. There they go. I guess he waited for medevacs to transport them safely. But now Solar could potentially try to make something happen again in natural. But like you said, the timer is on uThermal, it's not on Solar. Solar is still 15 to 20 drones ahead. He is going to lose this base, but exactly like I said, he's just re-expanding on the left top side. Yep. There's no need for Solar to run up the ramp and take a very bad fight into Liberators and tanks.
You know, we don't think of Solar as necessarily like just a blazing fast mechanical god. We think of him as a smart player, and this is him in action, reacting so well to what uThermal's doing. Once again, cutting off the reinforcements. Great micro, though, from uThermal. Actually mitigates all of the Banelings there. Nice snipe on the tanks from Solar, but that was just about as good as that fight could go for the Dutch Terran.
I think uThermal's going to float over his main base towards his third base. I guess that's one way to eventually expand. I think we saw TY do this earlier in this tournament as well. But Solar, especially on creep, should still have a much better army. There are 15 additional Banelings morphing at this point. He's even getting +1 missile attacks for these Hydras. Yeah. And the Hydra count should be quite high at this point. I mean, he's been producing them almost non-stop. We're looking at 28 Hydras.
Oh, that's insane, man. This is a huge count. The Liberator's not going to be too useful versus that. Man, I'm not sure if Solar realized that army's sieging up there. He's going to jump on top of it. The siege tanks aren't quite there yet. Solar does go up a ramp, but he catches all of the Liberators exposed. The Marines, though, find a very nice angle.
That was a little bit questionable. Solar was bleeding out a lot of units there. Going up a ramp against those Liberators is very tough. He reduced the Liberator count for a little bit, but it seems like uThermal's... There is a Zergling in my base. I have no idea how that happened. But I mean, uThermal gets at least another kill on the fort. The biggest problem, though, eventually must be upgrades, though, right, Pig? These are +1 Marines against +2 armor Hydras.
And no armory down yet, which means no +2 able to start, even though uThermal does have the gas for it. And this is something which is always the big problem when you do these 2 base pushes. You're so committed, you can't really squeeze in those extra upgrades. And now the 2 carapace is finished, +1 range is finished, this army is going to grow stronger and stronger. I mean, I almost feel like Solar should have just stuck with Ling Bane. The Hydras, of course, are going to be able to buy a lot of time. But that fight on the north was a little bit wasteful.
Yeah, he didn't have to do that. That's exactly what he didn't do on the right bottom side. And now he did do it here. Perhaps he expected that Terran army to be a tiny bit smaller than it actually was. This is actually ridiculous because you're looking at 121 army supply of uThermal. And it's off 2 bases, guys. This has been a 2-2 push since minute 7 or 8.
Yeah, don't let the army supply fool you.
Did he
It
just
is
float
low
over
tech,
his natural?
but there's a lot of raw material there. Wow.
Okay.
Says, you know what, only 3 patches there, why not, man? He's just going to mine that out as quickly as possible. These Marines going to clear out those Zerglings. And Solar here, he's just being very patient. I think he's going to start to counterattack a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, if uThermal ever commits his army onto creep, it's going to get annihilated. There's no way it can compete with this. uThermal needs to just try and engineer a situation where Solar feels forced to engage into him.
It feels like all these mineral lines are very exposed, so I totally understand Solar going for those run buys. At the same time, he catches the main army of uThermal on the top side of the map.
Big engage there for Solar. Cleans up the entire army. A few more Marines and tanks coming out. It's incredible how close the supply still is here. But, I mean, that's just a massive advantage for Solar. He's got the 4th base back up in the south. He's got a hive on the way. And he's not missing a beat with his creep spread. It's still going out in every direction. His upgrades are fantastic. And the problem here is uThermal's getting more and more spread out, which means there's more avenues for these counterattacks to hit him from.
Yeah, there is a sensor tower going up, but I don't think it's going to be done in time. Let's take a look at those 2 banelings, because I think this mineral line is very exposed. uThermal paying attention to the minimap, though.
Oh, they just wanted to have a look at the rocks back there. Those banelings were friendly. Didn't want to go right in. These Liberators, on the other hand, not so friendly. Going to try and take out some drones. Quick reaction from Solar, and should be able to...
Very low HP Liberators, though. One of them gets sniped immediately. The other 2 are going to be stuck in kind of an awkward spot. This is going to allow uThermal again to push via the right side.
And there's no creep on that very bottom. He's actually might have an angle, but oh, yeah, Solar knows it. He's going to try and stop him getting in that position up on top of that ramp. That's been the hard spot so far throughout this game. Baneling's going to come forward. They are off creep, though. This is a scary situation for both sides. The upgrades way in favor of the Zerg right now.
Yeah, even getting +2 now for his Zerglings and his Banelings. So if Solar can get the connections that he's looking for, he's going to do devastating amounts of damage. uThermal still at 161 supply of 2 orbitals. Seems like Solar had enough of uThermal sieging him up. At the same time, he's also getting this base on the left top side, so he could potentially transfer the workers there again. But let's see if this counterattack, that's a lot bigger than the few banelings we saw before, can actually do the damage that Solar is looking for.
Oh, this siege tank sieges up just in time, but the Zerglings coming in with it. Great shot from the tank, takes out a few of those Banes, but a few of them connect, and oh man, what a massacre.
Yeah, upgrades really mattering there, Pig, in that fight. You can really see that these 1-1 Marines don't do too well against these +2 Zerglings. uThermal paying attention to that fight at the bottom side of the map, so he's losing all of his SCVs, and he already didn't have very many to begin with.
This is starting to be a bloodbath, Roddy. It's getting messy, down and dirty here for the Dutch Terran. I mean, we thought he was done after his first push didn't work, after the Speedbanes held it. He's managed to fight on here and try to force mistakes, but Solar's just being too good. He said, look, I've got an advantage. I'm just going to play this really patiently. I'm going to block all of your moves. I know you're all in. You don't have a follow-up to this, whereas I do. Vipers are now out. Zerglings backstabbing the other base. Brutal devastation. That's the last little bit of the Terran's economy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for uThermal. uThermal knows right now that he really cannot wait any longer. He's going to have to be forced to push on creep, and I don't think it really matters. GG, Solar takes game number 1. And what I love the most about that game from Solar is that from the moment he realized how committed and how all-in uThermal was with his play, he didn't add a single drone. He went from 60 to 59, all the way down to 53, because he was rebuilding buildings left, right, and center. But he was not stubborn, never squeezed in that one cycle of drones that could have potentially been his end.
Yeah, that was a beautiful play there from the Korean Zerg player. Of course, there are a lot of other games going on in the tournament. Let's see how they're going with Claris and the boys on the desk.
That's right, thank you, Pig. Indeed, we have Innovation going up against True. Todd is covering that one. Todd, what have you got for us?
Innovation won a fantastic game one with just relentless pressure. He killed around 400 units and lost around 100. So he was definitely very cost effective. I think there was 5,000 resources difference in that game. And in game number 2, it looks like he's doing a push here with the first 2 medivacs and some tanks. And much like in game 1, True is just on the defensive the entire game. Like he's never had almost an opportunity to just move across the map and get some of his own aggression going, just because Innovation is relentless. He launched TVZ script successfully, and True is just struggling the whole time. Look at this push. We just randomly tune in and Innovation's killing him. What is this?
I don't know, man.
Well, it's innovation.
That's right, because he is innovation.
Thank
you very much. All right, let's check in as we do have Dark and Hurricane Artosis.
Yes. Okay, so it's tied up 1-1 right now, and the first game, Hurricane actually played really well. He went Stargate, pretty standard, into some Charge Archon, did some harassment, backed up, went into Immortals. You know, Dark was sitting there making roaches, going to Hydras. He was actually trying to get into Swarm Host when suddenly Hurricane pushes across the map and just kills him.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's game 1. So game 2, Dark is like, I'm not dealing with that. Roachling all in against Stargate once again, just gets inside the wall, kills all the probes off, very straightforward. Now we're in game 3 here, so we can jump in and see just a little bit of harassment going on by Hurricane here, but already 5 drones killed, right? He's got his Oracle up there. He's got a couple of depths kind of pushing the drones around. Of course, you know, Dark, he's playing pretty aggressive from here, but the full wall from Hurricane, so don't think Dark's going to be able to really do any damage with this right now. Hard to say who's going to take it, but Hurricane is playing very well here against one of the players that we kind of expect to maybe win the tournament.
Absolutely, especially with that 1-1 so far. Thank you very much, Artosis, as things continue on here at the Intel Extreme Masters Group B to start things off. I think we're ready to go back over to the commentators for game number 2, Solar versus uThermal.
Thank you very much, James. And seems like the other games are starting to heat up here. Of course, this series started off a little bit odd, didn't it? With, you know, a bit of a slow game, kind of things kind of leeching to a standstill for the Dutch Terran. Didn't quite work out for him, that opening push.
No, I was really hoping that Solar would be a little bit more greedy, or perhaps sometimes not paying attention, or his creep strat wouldn't be as good as it was, but it just didn't work out. Must say, surprising games there on the desk though. Hurricane 1-1 against Dark, and Pig, we looked at each other, we didn't see much of game 3, but we both know how those games often end. When you kill 5-6 drones and the Zerg made a bunch of lings and doesn't do anything, seems like Dark is in some trouble.
Might just be Hurricane's moment. Of course, we are going to continue this series here, up here in the top left-hand side of Catalyst, representing Splice. It is Solar.
And over here on the right bottom side, we're looking in the main base of our Dutch Terran player representing Team Liquid. It is uThermal. Spent quite some time in Korea over the last few weeks. Seemed quite confident going into the day, looked at his group and said, if he plays well, you know, if a little bit of lady luck on his side, he actually thinks that he can advance. But once again, I really feel that this is almost a must-win series for uThermal. Because especially if Dark ends up losing to Hurricane, then Dark is going to be really angry. And if Dark is angry, I wouldn't want to play him in ZVT.
You know, Dark's never one to rein that ego in either. He's like, when he loses to someone he doesn't think he should lose, he actually does get quite rifled about it and just kind of ups his game. But this match here is going to be one of the more important ones, one of the ones we're expecting to be incredibly close. Of course, Catalyst, a smaller map. And that last one, I mean, I really think it just came down to that Baneling speed. Solar had no idea what was coming. He was just kind of like, well, I'm just going to play, you know, get the Baneling speed. My Lairs done. Seems to be a piece of safety built into his build. And it just crushed the push. When you're doing that sort of push, if there's no Baneling speed, you get time to siege those tanks up. You push the creep back. You get in there. Didn't work out for uThermal. No doubt going to go back towards something that's a little bit more regular or generic in its playstyle. I can't imagine he's going to throw out a 2-base all-in like that again.
No, even though, I mean, if there is one map you probably want to do it, it could very well be Catalyst.
This is a short rush distance.
Yeah, this is pretty much the shortest one out there, but doing it 2 games in a row. Once again, a very big series. These are big groups, big round-robin groups. There are 6 players in the group. You play 5 series. But Solar in a group with Innovation and Dark as well. I think uThermal knows. Let's not forget that map score is also very, very important because there's always potential for a lot of ties down the road. The first group, we didn't really have to theory craft too much. It was just straightforward. Maru, Deer, and TY were simply too strong today. But I'm expecting things to be a lot closer in this group, so every map truly matters.
Absolutely. We're going to usually be seeing a lot more of those close matches where the fourth and fifth match in the sets actually decide everything. And this one very well could be one. Oh, uThermal never walks away without a couple of kills, forces the Spore Trick, he goes back in. Oh man, 2 drones. That is huge.
That is everything you need to forget about that previous game. You might actually
oh my gosh, he's not even done.
I mean, that one is going to morph into the Extractor, but
this is so annoying.
This is one of the most successful Reapers we've seen in a little while. Will it get out of there? Yes, it will, because the Queen is way too slow off creep. What a good start for uThermal there.
There is a glass of whiskey and a plaque on the wall waiting for him back in the Terran base. That is an insane amount of work for this early on in the game. You know, a drone or two, 7, 8 minutes into the game, not a big deal. This early on, though, that's just not supposed to happen.
Well, that's a very big deal. uThermal obviously kind of the start that he's looking for. He's going to follow it up with some Hellions once again. We do have that tech lab again. Now let's see if it's going to be just a Viking or if this time we do see some Hellion Banshee or perhaps even a Raven.
You see, I was about to say Caster's Curse. It's got to be a medevac now. The one unit you didn't mention, he's going to swap to the tech lab, build a medevac without even getting a Viking first, and just go drop Hellions.
Wouldn't be the first time that happened to me, Pig.
It always happens, man. The moment you get on camera and you make a prediction, it's always going to go the other way. But it looks like it is just going to be Banshee this time. No Cloak starting just yet, interestingly enough.
Very fast 3 base, though, for uThermal. Look at that. He's throwing up another command center. He is doing it in the wall, so he's not trying to hide this by any means, but playing a much more economic style here in game number 2. That one Zergling from Solar should be able to get the scout off. uThermal's going to try to deny it with his Hellions, right? Where's the Zergling? It's coming from the middle?
It's like wandering around the left-hand side of the map right now. But yeah, of course, would love to stop the vision of that going down. Is going to be able to see it, though. Nice scout there by Solar. Does spot the third command center. And, of course, a big piece
Did
here.
he though?
Oh, he didn't. Wow, he just missed it.
The Zerglings didn't have their binoculars on, Pig.
Yeah, they actually do have tiny vision. They are actually one of the shorter ranged vision units in the game. The Overlord, one of the ones with the longest vision on the other hand, does get a good idea of what's going on, sees it is just going to be a bio follow-up. Of course, 2 engineering bays are on the way very early. Interestingly from Solar, Fast Lair and a Roach Warren, Roddy. Do you think we're going to see some Roach play here?
Well, with 4 more Overlords on the way, you kind of start feeling so, right? But at the same time, we also see double Evolution Chamber going down. This, meanwhile, this Banshee in the middle of the map is just chilling. uThermal wants to make sure he's not getting all in. We saw, for instance, Snoot multiple times in this event, right? Make a lot of queens when they actually go for a Roach Ravager Ling attack on maps like Catalyst. So uThermal used his Banshee very passively, but at least he knew that he was safe.
Roach speed is going to be on the way for Solar. This creep starting to push its way out very nicely. Solar already with a very healthy worker lead, identifying there's no threat of aggression. This is one of the things you give up when you're playing as safe as uThermal is here. Those Hellions not really poking around, not really slowing down the creep and creating as much threat. So Solar is going to take a bit of an economy lead, but when you factor in mules and a third being on location this early, I think it's totally fine for uThermal. He's got the upgrade advantage, he's got nice production, and once his first 2 medevacs come out, he'll be able to go across the map with a bunch of Marines, start clearing up some creep, applying some pressure.
He doesn't really know about the amount of roaches that Solar is producing, though, right? Can we get a look from uThermal's vision? Did he ever see the Roach Warren in the first place? Let's start with that. No, he really didn't see anything. He didn't see the Evo Chambers, didn't see the Roach Warren. Now, of course, the fact that he doesn't see Zerglings running around is a little bit of a tell. But I still wonder if he's 100% sure of what he's going up against.
Oh, he's actually going to go for the quick 2 siege tank push. Very nice. Going to try and slow down that fourth. But Roaches and Ravagers are pretty fantastic against this push, especially if he sieges up those 2 tanks next to each other. That could be really bad for uThermal. He is going to find out soon enough that it's a Roach Ravager play from Solar. Let's see how this one goes.
I mean, he could potentially stim forward. Throws down the scan and at least spots the army. So that's a money scan if you've ever seen one. Because that's going to allow uThermal not to siege up in a poor position and not lose those tanks. And especially when you go up against a lot of roaches, because that's clearly what we're looking at. It is very important that you keep your tanks alive. Because 1 or 2 tanks, yeah, that's nice. But if you really want to deal effectively with roaches, you need that solid tank count of 5, 6, 7 tanks.
Yep. Those roaches, an amazing unit at this point in the game. A strong early unit. Solar would love to fight now and in the next couple of minutes. uThermal, though, he's just going to want to kind of get up that stronger army you were talking about. The second factory is on the way. It's going to be needed, especially if the contaminates keep going down like that, freezing up production for about 30 seconds. The Roach Ravager already moving across this map. The Queen's coming with it to help clean up that Banshee.
Wow.
uThermal is going to have a fight on his hands to defend this third base.
Yep, the 1-1 upgrades are done for Solar as well, but uThermal's upgrades are done too. He also has combat shield. It comes mostly down to the tanks. Can he keep his siege tanks alive? I think that's going to be one of the most important things here. We don't have a single bunker. Those two tanks on the south side are awkwardly close towards each other, Pig.
They are very close. Solar trying to force his way up this ramp. He's eating massive siege tank splash damage, but there's just not enough Marines, Roddy. The opening was too good for Solar. He has an absolute horde of Roach Ravager. They're going to push through, and uThermal caught with not quite enough units. It looks like Solar has those overwhelming numbers, those SCVs being pulled just a little bit late to the party, and uThermal running back to his production line. That leaves his third undefended.
Still has quite a few Marines, still has a lot of medevacs for these Marines as well, but the most important thing is tanks. He needs tanks. I love that Solar is splitting off a couple of Roaches towards the left side to do even more economic damage, but can he perhaps just end it here?
He might be able to. He's got a huge army supply lead. Ravagers are quite vulnerable to these Marines, but more and more Roaches are rallying in. They're going to be the great tanking unit that he needs. Siege tanks having to siege on the high ground, not going to be close to the action. The third base is forfeit. The Roach Ravager is in there. The Marines trying to force these Roaches over here. They want to protect that third, but it has already been routed.
2-2 upgrades are more than halfway done though for uThermal, but the biggest problem is he lost 4 SCVs, and that is just something to very, very difficult to bounce back from. Now with that tank on the high ground and a lot of micro potential in these Marines, the biggest problem is that the amount of economic damage that Solar has already done to uThermal.
This is huge. Solar just pushing his way through. The siege tank on the high ground does go down. Solar going to back off for now, but I think he's already taken good enough trades. He's forced the third to lift. The natural has been routed. A nice little drop here from uThermal. I mean, it's a little bit of damage, but he needs a lot right now.
It's actually amazing though that he can still think about being aggressive on the other side of the map. He's pulling all these units back. Now, of course, this once again does not change that uThermal took an insane amount of economic damage. But, I mean, 3 orbitals, 2-2 upgrades against 1-1. I mean, he's down 80 supply, but we've seen bigger comebacks.
We have, I do recall a comeback similar to this one from uThermal. Once, I think it was in Starcraft Clan Wars or something like that, what's the... Starcraft Kings.
Yep.
That's the name of the show match series. I think it might have even been against Solar himself. It was definitely against a Roach Ravager play where he came back with crazy drops, but I don't think a frontal push is going to be the answer. I don't think this one's going to be able to do it, Roddy. He's got to split up and drop, but he feels desperation. He wants to use the upgrade advantage.
Yeah, he's not building any SCVs behind this as well, so that really tells us that he wants to win the game with this attack, with the upgrade advantage. The biggest problem in that previous fight was that his Marines were eating a couple of corrosive bow hits as well. Yep. I honestly think with a bunker or 2 on top of that ramp, there is a good chance that uThermal does actually hold. Now he goes back to SCV production, but being down 40 workers, mules are good, but I don't think they're that good.
Not at all. I mean, he's going to try to catch back up here. He is pulling home. SCV production still hasn't really restarted.
I would love to see more drops, like you said, Pick. I honestly think that drops were the answer there. If he didn't move out with his entire army, but instead starts dropping everywhere, no matter how good you split up your units, if you're Solar, you simply don't have potential to catch those medeffects, right? You don't have Fungo or Hydras or Mutalisk.
And this is the desperate situation a lot of Terran players have found themselves in before when they are up against this Roach Ravager style. And something that we always come back to at the end, you know, I know myself and a lot of other players watching these sort of games are going, how are you meant to hold that? It looked like a good defensive position. Often the answer is simply holding further back closer to your production, sometimes even lifting the third. If you pull those 20, 30 SCVs in front of your army, often you can crush it, but in this case, it seems like uThermal just lost so much critical mass of his army before pulling the SCVs, and now he's dealing with this huge supply cap. I love what he's doing here with the defensive posture, but if those Roaches get in, that's going to cause him a lot of bother.
I feel like we're watching Jaws, man. Where's the
a pack of 8 Jaws all together, man. You don't want to swim in that base.
Sharknado!
Hey, he didn't build any Cyclones this game, right?
Still a little bit of a rest going down. I mean, army supply uThermal is sort of in there. And something that Todd always likes to mention is that, ooh, okay, gets a kill on that 5th base as well. If you can somehow get close to being maxed out, his army is going to be massive, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, uThermal, A, it's going to take him a while to max out. And B, even if he somehow does get close to maxing out, he's not going to have any bank. So if he then loses a fight, it's game over immediately.
Yep, trying to hang on and work your way back into that one big single punch army. Often the game plan we see, but the counter to that, of course, for the Zerg is to simply tech up and say, okay, I'm going to go to a unit composition that counters yours. In this case, it's going to be Broodlords. Hive and Spire both almost finished. We're going to be seeing a Greater Spire start up after that. And that means we've only got a few minutes until Broodlords are on the field. When you add Broodlords to a Lingbane Ravager composition like this, a Terran simply cannot break that with just Marines and tanks.
And this is going to be very annoying. Multiple Roaches have unburrowed. More Roaches heading towards the natural as well. So these Roaches are going to show up in the main natural and third base at once. And uThermal already doesn't have too many SCVs. So if he ends up losing 8 or so here or even more, it's just devastating. He just doesn't have anything going.
These Roaches unburrowing in the main are going to start to tear him apart. The natural looking like it's going to take some damage as well.
Even
and
these scans are really hurting him, right?
This is terrible for uThermal. This is so hard. He doesn't even have enough scans to clean that up. He's realizing, okay, if this is happening, I'm never going to max. I need to go now. And he needs to push. Luckily, this means he will hit before Broodlords, but there's already Vipers on the way out. There's a huge Zergling Ravager force, and Solar is hungry for that engagement. He's going to jump on top of this army. The Liberator's facing the wrong direction. The Marines vastly outnumbered. A few siege tanks do fall. Solar going to pull back, wait for more corrosive piles.
A couple of good hits of the tanks there on the right side. They felt a little exposed. The Roach is just going to town on everything they can see in the main base. uThermal only has 8 SCVs left. It's now or never. 14 Banelings are morphic, but how many Banelings are there actually on the map right now, Pig?
This is a huge army from the Zerg. The corrosive pile once again takes out the front 2 siege tanks, a bunch of Marines as well, and pulls on back. More Banelings are morphing. The Marines trying to get in there, but not in time. The Banelings do get out, and there's just a little bit too much Zerg. Solar hangs on, drops a blinding cloud on the tanks on the back, and that's going to be all she wrote for our Dutch Terran. uThermal does try his hardest, almost breaks through, but Solar hangs on in the end, takes the 2-0 victory.
Well, good job there by Solar, not underestimating the power of that push, because if he's short 8 Banelings or so there, Pig, those Marines are suddenly looking mighty fine on the high ground.
Oh, yeah.
When you don't have your Broodlords out there yet. But Solar, once again, not underreacting, making sure that he has enough Banelings, and he looked very good in this first series of Group B.
Very clean play. Nice reactions. I kind of like seeing the aggressive play out of uThermal. Of course, it is just the start of his group. But we said from the get-go, this was going to be an important match. Whoever wins this one, it's a great start to things. Of course, if anyone can sneak a set off someone like Innovation or Dark, they're going to be in an even better position. We will be hearing from Solar in just a minute, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. We just saw our first match of Group B, and it's Solar that comes out on top over uThermal. So first of all, congratulations, Solar. It's been kind of a long time since we've seen you at the foreign stage. So first of all, how have you been, and what is your condition looking like coming into this event?
I've been just on practicing, and also after I come here, this place is so cold, so I'm a little bit worried about cold, but it wasn't bad, yeah.
Not bad at all. It was a quick 2-0, and I'm curious because in the past month you faced uThermal twice online, and both times it was a pretty convincing win for you, 6-1 in maps overall. So because of that, did you feel pretty comfortable headed into this match?
Yeah, I feel when I play against uThermal, he's scary of me. I can feel it, so yeah, that's good for the online score was very good for me. Yeah, and also I was very confident, so it was very easy for me. Yeah.
Well, in this group, uThermal was the only non-Korean. You have 4 other Koreans now to get through. So based on that, when you looked at your group when it first came out, what was your reaction?
It was 5 Koreans, so I was very surprised. But I think foreign players' level is very high right now, so I don't think that doesn't matter. So it will be gonna hard. Yeah.
Well, against uThermal, it went very, very well, but now you have another ZVT coming up and you're going up against Innovation. So going up against someone as strong as that, how do you feel about your ZVT?
Yeah, it will be very hard, but my ZVT is now my strongest, so I'm a little bit confident against him. Yeah.
It sounds really great. Thank you so much, Solar. Best of luck against Innovation. Kalaris, back to you.
Always great to hear from Solar with that first victory of the day for him. And we do have some updates for you as other games have been going on. We're going to start off things with Todd. You had Innovation versus True. How did it go?
I want to show a moment in the game, like he kind of went as you expected, as you would expect it, I want to say, with Innovation just powering through. So he's doing a pre-7 minutes, 17 Marines and 2 tanks that is boosted across the map timing. I believe actually that was kind of around when we jumped into the game, which is really the turning point here. This is the 3rd base of True. If he can kind of break that and start doing damage, this would be very good for Innovation. He had a Reaper guarding that gold base on the other side here. So look how well he sets up here. He puts those 2 tanks here, and then this is the range of the tanks. So the goal will be to just kind of start on pulling back as soon as True engages into him. He knows that there's going to be banelings clearly, pulls back perfectly, picks up, and every single time he does that, he gets some better trades. And from there, Innovation just started on pulling further and further ahead. And I love how the 2 Medivacs made that possible, because he didn't have 1-1 yet. He didn't have combat shield either when this push was moving across the map. And just the micro was perfect, the tank positioning.
Oh.
And Innovation just made True look like he basically wasn't on a level, basically, right now.
Made True look false. There you go. Let's head over to
like it.
Artosis. And Artosis, you did have Dark versus Hurricane, which actually came with a surprising result.
Yeah, Hurricane ends up winning this one. As we jumped into the 3rd game, like right before we saw that last game, you did see the Adepts were getting some extra kills, the Oracles were getting some extra kills early in the game. So not the greatest start for Dark, but definitely a pretty cool way that Hurricane ensured the victory. We'll jump into this game and see. First, one thing I do want to point out real quick, let's take a look here. See this creep tumor?
Yes.
Look down here. 0 shields on a creep tumor.
Wait, what?
I never noticed that before.
No, not
but I was clicking around boredly waiting to go on.
Surely that's a UI bug.
What's the point?
Well, here's the thing. If you're going to tell me it has 0 shields, I'd also like to know how much mana it has.
Okay.
I don't want to wonder, like, is this going to cast a spell on me?
No.
Okay, so taking a look at this, Dark went into Swarm Host. He seems to like that right now. And this is where it's like still kind of like, okay, Dark can still do this, right? They both have a lot of units. There's a lot of drones on the map. But this is a really nice move, right? We see a bunch of Zealots over here. We see the Prism over here and the main army here, right? So we'll go ahead and hit play, speed this up a little bit. And the harassment becomes pretty crazy, right? And he's pushing up into this space. So this was a great move by Hurricane that really kind of got him ahead, right? Here comes Dark with the army. The Psy Storms are going to go down. And eventually he'll run away from a bunch of this stuff, right? And in the meantime, of course, Zealots are over here. And he did send his army to deal with the Zealots over here, but that's how this initial attack came up. So from here, like, Hurricane just played very well. He moved around the map, he poked, he prodded, he used Psy Storm, ran away from Locust, and that was that.
There you go. There you go. And those are our first 3 results coming in so far. What did you make of uThermal Solar? Did you see any of it whilst you were watching these games?
Yes, Solar kind of played on the level I expected him to, and he, in my opinion, he was a big favorite going into that matchup. Like he did mention himself, he was very confident, but he's the second highest winning player against uThermal. His second nemesis, Nurture's first, plus 16 in maps in Solar's favor before the series. So now plus 18.
Quick maths again. There's so much quick maths at this tournament, I can't believe it.
Quick math.
There you go, quick math. Let's check in with the Group B results. As you can see down here, we do have those victories for Innovation, Solar, and who knows now, Hurricane, of course, as well. Dark, actually, with the unexpected loss there in his first round. And Artosis, he's one of the names we look at to do so well in this tournament.
Yeah, he's like someone that you always look at and say, okay, he could win this tournament. You know, not the greatest start, but this is, Hurricane's a strong player. Everyone's known it for a long time. He's just never had that strong offline performance, so maybe this is going to be a good tournament for him finally.
All right, well, time for a break now here at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. When we return, we have more StarCraft action. Don't go anywhere.